What's poppin'? What's poppin'? What's poppin'? You are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I'm your host, Kid Ralph, here with the homie and my co-host, the homie Kyle. What's poppin', bro?
Uh, Hold up. Sorry about that, guys. What's good? What's good? My mic was on mute. I'm doing great. It's good to be back for some fun action, some sports action, man. So I'm happy to be here as always.
Hey, most definitely. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome
But before we
back.
get started, send a little shout out to the sponsor. Call the number on the bottom of the screen if you want to do any photos, shoots, podcasts, music videos. Call 707 Fit Boxer. As well as make sure you go like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know how you feel about the show. If you're feeling us, if you're not, regardless of the matter, we want to hear your feedback. But make sure you go on Facebook, YouTube. Just type in the he say all one word. The he say she say channel. Go on Instagram. Type in at J.U.K. Sports Show. Make sure you go and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, as well as there's one I'm missing. TikTok,
You said
Twitch,
IG, Twitch,
Instagram,
Facebook.
IG is the other one. Um,
Okay.
at KYNGRALPH, add an underscore on Twitter. Make sure you go on Instagram and follow at the.house of hoops. Basketball is in full effect with NFL wrapping up. It's about to get hot, heated, and heavy. He's got
hmm
all the analysis, breakdowns, no
Yeah.
bias, no narratives,
No
just
narratives
real talk sports.
and highlights.
Yeah. And so 2 minute drill, baby. Going quick,
Okay.
fast, and ready. My man CJ Stroud has officially
Mm.
said he has declared himself for the draft. Y'all know how I feel about it because I've been talking about him all year. But in your unbiased opinion, who is the best QB in the draft?
Okay. So when I look at the best quarterback in the draft or the best QB in the draft, I'm actually going to wind up going with CJ Stroud. I'm not just saying that because, Ralph's here and we already talked about Ohio State. But I look at things like what do you do against elite competition, right? Not saying that Bryce Young hasn't done that, and also the wealth and plethora of weapons for him to the way that he was able to perform. When I look at against Georgia, having an 82.6 passing grade against Georgia, which now we see Georgia is the defending national champion. So shout out to them. Um,
Right.
I think with him is his arm strength though. Ralph isn't the strongest, but he can throw it, but maybe not the strongest out of the quarterbacks in that like a 1 through 5 range in this particular draft. But he has what he makes up for that in his accuracy. He's extremely accurate. He has really good footwork, and I think that tangible or uh, those are assets and attributes that are going to go to the next level. Because at the end of the day, for me, Ralph, I think we get lost kind of in the sauce of, or a lot of people get lost in the sauce of what they do necessarily at the collegiate level. But NFL evaluators and talent scouts, they're actually looking at what you're going to be able to do at the NFL level within the NFL offense and how you fit within the NFL offense. So it's
Right.
not solely just college. Like there's players like even Anthony Richardson, who actually you could say is well suited in terms of NFL, in terms of having a ceiling, which I talked about, I think 2 weeks ago. The only issue with him is he's a red shirt sophomore. He doesn't have as much tape as some of these other guys due to lack thereof experience. But he would be someone that someone could be like, well, if he does pop, I wouldn't be surprised. You know what I'm saying? So you have to think about that. When you have a plethora of weapons in college, it can mask a lot of different things. So, but for the sake of the question, I'm actually going to go with your boy. I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. I think in terms of best chance to start as a quarterback right now, I think C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are the two de facto quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're definitely the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And y'all already know how I feel. My boy came through clutch when it was needed.
hmm
Just came up a little short given the circumstances. Kicker failed them. Best
Right.
receiver, best two receivers not in the game in the fourth quarter. Um, so I think that his accuracy, I think if you put him in an offense like the West Coast offense, it's one of those things where he can dig and dunk down the field. And he has the ability to make the play down the field as long as you have the receivers that can make the play on the ball.
Exactly.
He doesn't have a crazy Mahomes or Josh Allen arm, but Tom Brady, nobody ever was like, oh, Tom Brady's the best thrower of the football going down the field. He just was able to
Right.
make plays when it need be. So he has the arm talent, and he
Mhm.
showed the mobility to be able to move the pocket around
Yeah.
and
He
keep
has
his
good
eyes down the
footwork.
field.
Footwork, shoulder shrug, all that. Yeah.
Exactly.
The finite
Tom Brady
details. Yep.
did not look well in last night's game,
Mhm.
getting worked out by the Cowboys. Is it time?
Yeah, I believe it is time for Tom Brady to retire. With all due respect to Tom Brady, he had an illustrious career, but I think what we need to look at, Ralph, is one, you got to look at age. You got to look at how he's playing with weapons. Because people say, "Oh, well, weapons around him," but he had receivers around him this year. Now, in defense, you could say, well, they had the 24th pass block rate, right? And me and you, we discussed. I said I didn't like the Bucks to make the Super Bowl this year because they had issues in that interior offensive line, and that's where you get pressure on Tom. So he's kind of fighting an uphill battle, and then you go out and you get a shell of a Julio Jones. No disrespect to Julio Jones, but Julio hasn't been what we know Julio to be, and so Julio Jones is probably someone else who needs to retire, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
lacked the interior O line protection. However, here's one glaring stat. I saw this on talk shows today. He had the second lowest quarterback QBR, I believe, of rating of all the starting quarterbacks in the wild card round. That means something to me. And he was only behind Skylar Thompson, third, who was a third string quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. So he wasn't even the backup. He was the backup to the backup. So that's
Right.
glaring. You throw 66 passes, you're 35 for 66. You throw an interception. Obviously, you have two touchdowns, but you have that second touchdown within garbage time. And then he's flinching. We see him flinching. He's like, flinching. So he's not, you don't want to take a hit, but you want to be able to step into the hit and drive the ball down the field. And he hasn't shown that he can do that. Now, I think the only area that he might go to would be a McDaniels, because he has that rapport, he has a relationship. They have a Devontae Adams, they have a Darren Waller, like we talked about. You have a Hunter Renfro, so he has weapons. But at what point does are the Raiders going to take that next leap? I don't think that he helps them take that next leap. And then finally, my last point. Actually, I got to give credit because I actually saw someone take on social media. So shout out to whoever said this. So this is not mine, but he said he believes that Tom Brady's mentality is he won't go out if he's on top because winning is what motivates him to keep playing. As we saw when he won the Super Bowl, the only way he's going to quit is if he physically can't do it anymore and continues to lose. I was like, ooh. So although he should have retired when he was on top, because I think me and you talked about when he won that one in the Tampa, that I thought he
Yeah.
he should have retired at top. That's just not the way he's mentally wired and he thinks. He's going to play until he's got nothing left. And you know who that reminds me of? Rest in peace, the late great Kobe Bean. Kobe Bryant. Like until he put out that letter, he's like, yo, I can't physically do it no more. Tom is a psychomaniac where it's like he has to just keep losing. And then when his
Yeah.
body's like, you know what? So I think that's the battle that he's fighting. So I believe that he should retire, but I don't believe that he's going to retire.
I get that. I can fully agree with that too. And I think I look at him as somebody that's good, that's willing to go out on his shield. And
Yeah.
so it's as much as it's like,
You gotta get popped or
come
something.
on, bro. It's like, stop, bro. Relax. You're about to be
Right.
46.
That's
The one
crazy.
thing is, as a Raider fan, I just don't want to see him playing for the Raiders. Although out
Right.
here, I get the Josh McDaniels, I get the relationship and the Devontae Adams and Waller and Renfro and
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs. I just don't want to see it. And
It doesn't
so
really
it
elevate you guys either, really. Like,
exactly. I feel like
yeah.
it's one of those things. Like if we're gonna get rid of Carr, it's not like we got a better quarterback. We didn't get an upgrade at quarterback,
Yeah. Yeah.
in my
Period.
personal opinion. So on to the next one. Your boy Lamar
Hmm.
sat out playoff game. Some people feel
Yeah.
like he quit.
Yeah.
You hear that narrative is picking up some traction, but then you see his teammates come out and supported him, get that boy his bread. Even Calais Campbell said, "You don't lose a guy like that."
All right.
From 0 to 100, what are his chances that he is on a new team next season?
All right. So with all complete honesty, just to answer the question, I'm not even lying. I truly believe 80%. 80%.
Ooh.
I believe they're that far away from each other because, and the reason why I say that, Ralph, and I've mentioned this to you, is because one, you didn't come to negotiations before the season, right? Right. So you already had odds before the season. Lamar even came out vocally said that he would like to get a contract done before the season. Then on top of that, he gets injured again, and now you're in this predicament where you're like, okay, well, you haven't been available the last two seasons down the stretch. So now I'm looking at your durability issues. Then secondly, I'm looking at the fact that as Lamar, you never got me any adequate, reliable number one receiver or any outside weapons. You trade away my best friend, right? And you don't even replenish him in that same draft, right? You see a Jalen Hurts who gets an AJ Brown. You see what he was able to do, but then on top of that, not only did you trade away his best friend in Hollywood Brown and not replace him, Hollywood Brown outward spoke, and said the reason why I left was not because of Lamar, but it's because of Greg Roman. So now, if I'm Lamar, I'm looking at, well, my best friend left because of the system. Des Bryant left because of the system. But then again, why did you get me Des Bryant when I went to Antonio Brown? Willie Snead, who wound up playing for the Raiders, he was still talking about the system when he was on the Raiders. You know what I'm saying? So you have guys like Kurt Warner, guys like Steve Smith Sr., the receivers, right? So he doesn't have the weapons. Then you have poor situational play calling. Your head coaches don't support you throughout your injury, right? And you have players having to come out, and so now it's seeped into the locker room. So I think for best for both parties is if they both divorce and allow Lamar to go to greener pastures and be in a place where one, he can get his money because right now he's undervalued and underappreciated. Two, can be on a roster that is going to help him evolve in the passing game, which even you've been saying for years, right? And then three, also from a business perspective, he has business ventures and he said he wanted to be a billionaire, and being in a small market like Baltimore, that's not going to happen. So instead of doing this back and forth with cryptic tweets and posts and IG stuff, I think it's best to move on. If I'm the Ravens, if I don't actually if I don't believe in the quarterback, that's pretty much what I'm saying. If you don't believe in him, then you should just move on. Because at the end of the day, you have to think about like the quarterbacks that you're going up against in the AFC and stuff like that. So I believe that they're at odds, and I would say I give him 20% chance that he stays. And if he stays, then okay, say you get a DeAndre Hopkins or say you get this, that, and the third. It's like you already had 5 years to do all these things. And now you've watched all these other teams come up from underneath you. Because remember, Lamar used to be beating the Bengals. He used to be beating a lot of these teams. So now I feel like they just waited too long. So I think it's just best for both parties to separate, unless you're going to do a full scale change of your philosophy when you allegedly built this team around Lamar. So
Right.
that's me. That's just me as a fan, from a fan perspective. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fan of the Ravens and a fan of Lamar Jackson. So yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that,
But
man.
we'll see.
I'm not really sure. It sucks because I'm a big fan of the guy, so I don't really
Yeah.
want to see him leave.
Yeah.
Plus, I
Hey,
just
maybe
think it's
even the
dope.
Raiders, you know.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead. Go
somebody
ahead.
I would take instead of Derek Carr.
Yeah. And you look
But
good in
my
that black jersey too. I ain't gonna lie.
that'd be clean, man. But J.J. Watt calls it a career, a heck
Bro.
of a career. I'll take the lead on this one because
Go ahead.
you pretty much have went on the other one.
Last
I
two.
think his legacy is one of those things where, regardless of how you feel about him, take your take your heart out of the matter and think of his body of work. Prior to an Aaron Donald, he was the most dominant force on the football field.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 3 defensive player of the year awards, 5-time All Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, a member of the 2010 All 2010 team.
Okay.
And I just think that those numbers for itself, like he just was such a dominant force coming off the left side, coming off the right side, coming up the middle, injured, not injured, torn biceps, still out there giving it his all. He just happened to play for a franchise that is just trash and gonna always be trash, in my personal opinion.
You ain't lying.
but but it just is what it is, man. I hate that he wasted his career away.
Mm-hmm.
To a certain degree, as far as not being able to help a team win a championship because he was that dominant of a force.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's definitely a Hall of Famer. I think when you where you start to get to like running backs getting that 10,000 yard mark. I think that's one of those stat lines where it's like, all right, Hall of Famer, put a stamp on it. Then when you get as a person that's a pass rusher, you hit that 100 sack mark. I feel like that put a stamp on it, get them get them in the hall. And so I think that him at a little under 115 with 114 and a half sacks, making three defensive teams, he's for sure surefire, consummate pro. He's one of them guys that's definitely going to be a surefire Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said, and I think another um, a thing that I want to kind of touch on is some of his intangibles, right? Because we talk about the stats, and I know you talked about the accolades that he has. Also, one thing that makes him great or a phenomenal player was the fact that he had legendary work ethic and he never took a play off. He never took a snap off. That was what I think about J.J. Watt. That was one of the great things that made him great. And I heard, Channing, and I heard Ryan Clark, and I heard some other people mention about J.J. Watt in Houston Texan fans. Excuse me, guys, is he's one of those guys who's very versatile. He could play on the interior line and also the edge rusher as a line. He could play in four technique, three technique, do different things, 4-3 defense, etc. But also he was a technician with his hands, Ralph. Like he was a real technician with his hands. So those are the kind of the things that separate him. Just like when we talk about Aaron Donald and his hand technique. So I look at J.J. Watt from the intangibles standpoint. Also, I think he had 3 or 4 receiving touchdowns as well. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about someone who was getting sacks, someone who was getting tackles for loss, and someone who was also being used in the red zone, and also got forced fumbles. I think he's like the franchise leading leader in all those categories. So JJ Watt was like you said, the consummate professional, a humanitarian off the field, and then on the field, you could say that he was probably the most dominant defensive force that we have seen since the Reggie Whites and LTs of the world. So yeah, shout out to JJ Watt, shout out to his family and all that and everything. And he has a great brother out over in Pittsburgh as well. So yeah, I
Facts,
agree
facts,
with you.
facts. On to the fast break, man. The
All right.
At one point, I just knew she was going to be the love of my life.
Yeah,
Maya
yeah.
Moore has called
Love
it
you,
a career.
basketball.
7 years in the league,
Mhm.
extremely dominant since day one. We'll go on after the show. We're going to post a graphic of how winning she was, but she won 88% of the games she played from high school all the way up
Okay.
through through NBA. And
That's
it's
some
just
career
like
type stuff.
it's right. That the career that she had at UConn, the career that
Uh-huh.
she had in the WNBA, just a monster. 3-time All Star MVP, Finals MVP, won a regular season MVP, 4-time WNBA Finals championships. And
Impressive.
so I think that the career that she has, man, she's definitely and we talked about it before. It was the circumstances were different because she came in the league and then left young, and Cynthia Cooper got there older, but she
Mhm.
had that type of dominance as far as a run of 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of
Yeah.
being in either championship games or
Mhm.
conference championship games where Cynthia Cooper and her squad was able to run off 3 or 4 championships in a row as the best player, where Maya Moore was a number one pick, but they had a Simone Augustus. They eventually got a Sylvia Fowles, but
Mm.
the
Mm.
moment she got there, it made a difference, and she was a difference maker.
Right.
So
She
me
she
personally, I put
yeah.
her up there. She has a case to be the GOAT,
Mhm.
but because of longevity with Diana Taurasi's, the Sue Birds,
Yeah, yeah.
and what they were able to accomplish in a 20-year span, where she really only has 7 years,
Mhm.
I'm comfortable putting her in the top 5 because of she just was a legit winner.
A strong 7 years.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's and I don't like to, And all due respect, because I was trying to think of like just in female sports, because I don't like to compare like the men, because I'll be like with MJ, like you look at the MJ and what he was able to accomplish in such a short period of time, quote unquote. So I keep it within their respective sports, the WNBA or female sports in general. Like for her, like you could say she's kind of a one of one case scenario. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? To be able to have that record. What was that percentage again, Ralph? You said it was 80 what?
88,
Like,
88.
come on now. that
Right.
that's insane. That's insane. So you said top five, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm,
Okay.
I'm
So
comfortable with her being in the top five.
okay, yeah, I'm cool with five. Top 10 bare minimum at the
Yeah.
minimum, right? At
Right.
least top
Right.
10.
Right.
Just pretty much to piggyback off what you said, she was a member of the WNBA's top 20 at 20 team. So for their 20th anniversary, as well as the W25, a collection of the 25 greatest and most influential players in WNBA history. And then for reasons cited, I saw her sit down interview with Robin on, I believe, the Today Show. And so I kind of wanted to get more insight and behind the reason why she retired. And so she cited that she wanted to spend time with her family, with her son, and do work with the Win with Justice, her nonprofit organization, and bring awareness to prosecutorial reform. As we, some people, if you do not know, she met her now husband Jonathan Irons when he was like 18 years old, and through extended family in Missouri. And he was actually given a 50-year sentence for a non-fatal shooting in which he did not commit, and he was wrongly incarcerated for. I believe he served like 23 years. So Maya Moore was integral in getting him out of prison. And then obviously she got married, and so now she feels like she has a higher calling, in which I absolutely respect. And she said she wants to continue to bring awareness with that. So she's at peace. So a lot of times, people athletes may retire due to a career-ending injury, or what other circumstance. But the fact that she's actually at peace at her career at such a young age, at 33, I definitely I commend. And I know me and you, we're gonna definitely miss seeing her play. We were privy to see her at UConn as well, and she was balling over there with under head coach Ariema. So I just want to give Maya Moore her flowers. She definitely deserves it. I actually still to this day I wish there was a little more coverage on this story. I've seen a few videos here, a few videos there. I saw ESPN do it. But it would be nice to see a little more coverage, because she definitely deserves all the respect and praise and adulation. So shout out to Maya Moore, man. Definitely.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah,
And then Steve Kerr
yeah.
out here. Some people say he's tweaking.
Here we
I
go.
actually do understand the quote.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw it. I actually got a chance to see it. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't actually get to see it, but
Okay.
just thinking about
What he
what
was
it is,
saying?
I actually and just not without even having context, I just
Okay.
get it
Mhm.
because when in the '90s we had the like Mike, if I could be like Mike,
I
like
want to be the one.
everybody wanted to run up, and we put our rims lower so we can do the so we can do all types of we gonna do this, then we're gonna jump from the free throw line, and then we're gonna
Right.
kiss the backboard
Right.
and
Right.
rock the cradles and the the clutch shots. Like I just remember what it was to be like trying to be like Mike. So now you think about like just go to a random rec center, go to a random park, and just play some pickup ball.
Mhm.
You're gonna see kids out here shooting shots from long distances and trying to turn around and be like, oh, see, now I'm like Steph, like, oh, like Steph Curry. And so I think that when you think about it, the way that the game is being played, who they're trying to emulate, and the person that started that, it's one of those things where you can I get it. I wouldn't say that he's Mike to the dominance that Mike was. I don't think that
Okay.
Steph has that run of dominance.
Right. Right.
But as far as the impact on the game itself and who kids are trying to play like, regardless of how you feel about it, whether
Mhm.
Steph ruined the game or he helped it,
Mhm.
kids are trying to play like him.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that quote, without having context, I haven't even seen it, but at least I can understand where he's coming from with that point.
Okay. So luckily, I have the quote. I'll read it for you. It's Steve Curry said, "Steph transcends the game. He elicits emotion from people. I think because he's so awe-inspiring with his play that no matter where we go, there are people cheering for him and can't wait to see him perform because we've never seen anything like him. And I think people can relate to him because he's not this superhero in terms of his size and strength. He's 6'3", 185 pounds. There's a lot of people out there that size, but none who can do what he can do. He's incredibly inspiring, and as a result, we get a ton of support on the road. So I think really kind of tie this in what Curry said and what you said. For me, when I see Steph Curry, do I believe he's a modern day MJ? I believe he's the first and modern day Steph Curry. With all due respect, I think with MJ, we put MJ such on a high pedestal, and I understand it. I actually really just don't like comparing people to him. I think because when people compare people to MJ, they automatically go to championships, Ralph. You know how it goes, or they go to play style, which would obviously be Kobe. But I think really here it's just more of an influential thing for me with Steph. He's always going to be one of like those four most influential guys, and you could probably say he might at this point be number one, depending on what your generation is and era, right? I when I was subbing, I saw fifth graders shooting from Bora Bora. You know what I'm saying? So like shooting threes from Bora
Right.
Bora. My only thing is
Can't even give a good shot. They just out here shooting
right,
from the hip.
right. I think when we talk about what he says when people come to see Steph, also people come to see Steph at the shoot around, right? Shooting from the tunnel. So he is right in that aspect. I think in terms of the global part of it, because I don't know if you mentioned, I don't think you mentioned that in my quote that I read. MJ was more global though. Still, we know Kobe was huge in China. Like he's the hugest thing in China because we saw a Redeem Team. We lived through it. So I think I know Steph does have global appeal, but it's not to that level still to this day.
No.
So that's where I kind of differ. But I just think for Steph, and when he says like we haven't seen anything like that, we haven't seen someone consistently be so efficient from that shot, be the shooter of him. Like we saw Mahmoud, but Steph had the ball handling with it, then the crazy efficiency with it to be able to carry an offense through multiple seasons. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I think that's where Steph differentiates. Like I'm Steph is really, to me, he really is one of one, but I'm not gonna put him. I can't call him just me. I can't call him a modern day MJ, even though I know what Kerr was saying. I just put him so much more of a in a Kobe, AI, LeBron, Steph
Yeah.
category of influence. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? He's I would say you could say he might be the most influential player to play the game. Might, depending on how you
Right.
look at it. That's me.
Exactly.
That's just me. So yeah. All right.
And my man is out here baptizing people almost every night.
Ja.
Has
Do you
has
believe in
Ja
Ja?
has Ja become the best in-game dunker?
Hey, that's your boy.
Honestly,
I'm gonna let you go off on that one.
possibly that we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of those things like we saw D Rose with how aggressive he went to the basket. We
Yeah.
seen Mike put people in the rim. We seen Shaq out here with 30 people hanging on his back,
Right.
snatching the rim down. We seen Vince Carter, who a lot of people feel like is the best dunker of all time. We seen a
Of all
Dominique
time.
Wilkins and what he was able to do. But I think with the veracity, like he has the athleticism of a Derrick Rose, but the veracity going toward the rim of a Russell Westbrook,
Right.
where it's it's something that we've never seen before. So it's to see him 6'2", 6'1", however you want to look at him. I've seen him
Mm,
listed at 6'3". I've seen someone try to say he was only 6'1".
mm.
But to see how small he looks, a little bigger than Allen Iverson, but the way that he's going toward the rim and dunking on these big men, it's one of those things where like I think it's at least in the conversation,
Yeah.
and we all want to see him in a slam dunk contest.
Please, Ja. Please.
Right. So I think that it's definitely one of those things where he has a right to be in the conversations even in this short period of time. It's like
Okay.
every couple of weeks we're seeing him dunking on somebody.
I got a question for you then. Give me like 3 or 5 in-game dunkers for you personally that you say, these are one of the best. So you said Ja. Who would be like 3 other guys that 3 or 5 other
All
guys,
right.
or
So
3 or 4 in your
obviously
opinion?
Vince,
Okay. Okay.
Dominique
Mhm.
Wilkins,
Yeah.
Mike.
Mhm. That I like that.
I'm trying to
Anyone
think.
from this era? Like, would you put a Rose and Russ, or would you put
And
like
it
a
may be a
Mhm.
Gerald Green.
Oh, oh yeah, yo, Gerald Green might be because Gerald Green was really doing them in games, bro. Like,
Yeah,
you feel
yeah.
what I'm saying? Okay.
And it's like
Okay.
I think that there's a handful of people that like everybody thinks about like, oh, well, what about Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine?
But it's
It's
different in game.
in
Yeah,
game. Like
in
I
game.
haven't seen them do things in games.
Right, right,
Like we seen Mike turn that corner against the Knicks.
right.
We seen him get Mutombo. We seen him
Mhm.
in and out, old boy, for the Hornets. We've
Right.
seen Dominique Williams with the double pump. We've seen
Mhm.
Wilkins. We've seen a Sean Kemp and what he
I
was
was gonna
able to
say
do with
Sean.
in-game dunks.
Yeah,
So
Sean.
I think that even Ricky Davis to a certain degree. Like
Ricky.
there's some people that we've seen like in games
Mm-hmm.
that in-game dunk is just different. And
Yeah.
I think that Ja, in my personal, from what I've seen, the players I've personally watched,
Okay. He's up there. He's like
yeah,
okay. I agree with you. I believe he's in that. He's in like I'm gonna do tiers. He's because I seen a dunk tier thing. Maybe we got to get that. We got to do an episode one day. Maybe like in the off season where we do like greatest dunkers and we do like the put together our own pyramid. I don't want to use someone else's pyramid.
yeah,
We can put together our own pyramid. You know what I'm saying?
right, right,
Um,
right,
you're right. He would be in that tier one of in game dunkers because I remember one time Ralph Vince Carter, like I felt like he took off from the sideline and he did that side dunk. And also Vince Carter did the 360, but with the left hand. I was like, oh bro, he did it with the left hand because he was doing that joint at North Carolina. He was doing that left
yeah,
hand reverse. Most people can't do it with the left, they do it with the right hand, and he spun it like holding the hand out, like holding the ball in the air. I was like, what is this
right,
dude doing? And then you look at like the and one street ball. Remember when he cleared out the Clear.
yeah,
He was going up against that dude who was like trash talking and shooting threes, and then he caught that joint off the backboard and did the windmill so clean. I was like, yo.
yes, yes,
I'm with you. I'm gonna name you mine. The second time I got Vince in there. I got Ja in there. Baron Davis is up in there. In terms of power dunkers, who also have finesse, I gotta go Blake because he destroyed Pau Gasol. He destroyed. Was it Brandon Knight? He destroyed Brandon Knight. He destroyed Pau Gasol. He
Oh
destroyed. He
no,
did.
that was DeAndre Jordan that destroyed
Oh,
Brandon
Jordan.
Knight.
Okay, never mind. Okay, okay. But Jordan, that was a cold dunk. That was just a cold dunk. But I'm not gonna
Yeah,
put Jordan up
because
there. But Blake Griffin
he was so far away from the rim.
from the rim
When
when he
he
caught that.
jumped up, when he caught it, he was like by the free throw line. Is what it is. What
Yeah,
it felt like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the last one I'm gonna go. Oh, I got two more. I said Moran. I said, oh yeah, obviously Mike. I'm gonna go with the Mamba because I told Adrian, and Jamal were having this conversation because we're talking about like the tier pyramid. I was like, if you talk about reverse dunks, Kobe's reverse dunks were so signature that they actually put him in 2K. Like in 2K7, like, all right, we gotta just call this the Kobe signature reverse dunk because all his dunks, like he would go underneath the rim and dunk it. And then when he had the
Yeah,
fro, he was dunking on fools like Yao. He was dunking on obviously he dunked on Dwight, but he always had like that creative behind the back. Like who does that
yeah,
full speed? So I gotta go with Froby. And then when he had the low Caesar, he was doing that reverse. So I think reverse dunk because he got it off clean. Like it never was like, oh, the ball's hitting the rim. So I'm gonna
yeah,
probably
yeah.
throw those guys. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you, man. All right, that was a
And
fun
then
topic.
next up, we got my man. For the second time, we're gonna skip over a topic. We
Okay.
might come back to it depending on how much time we got. But best
Mhm.
fit, we got the
Oh, right,
Carolina
right, right, right,
Panthers,
right.
we got the Broncos, we got
Mm-hmm.
I think the Cardinals got a situation where they got an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to run at them, and I feel like there's a fourth team that I'm missing.
Let's see, Cowboy. Well, there's Cowboys and Chargers teams, but they're in the Chargers are out of the playoffs
Chargers,
now. Yeah,
yeah. So
but they
there's a
could start
possibility.
out too.
I've seen the Chargers as a possibility, even though they
Okay.
haven't officially let old boy go.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos, Cardinals, Texans was another one, and the Panthers. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in your personal opinion, looking at the landscape,
Yeah.
who is the best fit for Sean Payton if he is going to make a comeback?
So, in my personal opinion, it's the Arizona Cardinals. The reason why I believe the Arizona Cardinals is first, I believe that Sean Payton is obviously he wants to go to a team with a quarterback, but the Saints own their rights. So the Saints are saying that they want a what I think was like a mid first round draft pick or whatever for him. So you need to
Yeah,
have a first round pick. The Cardinals have the third round pick. Also, he has familiarity with the NFC and he's had success coaching in the NFC. So he doesn't have to go up against a Burrow, a Mahomes, a Herbert, if Lamar stays, etc. Then you have a resume that Kyler Murray, who's now being kind of labeled as a malcontent or whatever you want, what people are trying to label him. I'm not labeling him that, but we're seeing more and more a resume that Kyler Murray can come in and be like, oh, wait, you're a Super Bowl winning head coach. I can't respect a Cliff Kingsbury. He didn't have a resume in the NFL, let alone he didn't really have a good resume at the collegiate level. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why did he even get the job over, Steve Wilkes? Why did you fire him? So I think bringing in a Sean Payton there as well. DeAndre Hopkins may want to stay, and maybe you don't move him off the trade block. If you bring in a Sean Payton, also during the draft combine, I got a chance to sit there and watch his comments on Kyler Murray. They asked him directly about him, and he said that you can't rush him. He plays with poise. His height isn't a deficiency and his film is too good. He's like, when I mean like too good, guys, he's like, I mean too good. That's what Sean Payton said. And these were his last words. He said, I like him. And he has experience with a coaching small quarterbacks. And Kyler Murray, I believe he needs a fiery personality as a head coach that will hold him accountable and keep him in
yeah,
check. Where a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, Ralph, is more subdued. So I'm gonna swing it back to you for the sake of time. But I actually thought about this long and hard. I was like, you know what? I like what the guys on the Pat McAfee were saying about that kind of rapport. I think him in Arizona will fit.
yeah. I definitely agree, man. I think that is one of those things where he needs someone
Some
that's like
structure.
when you see him going on the sideline and he's like, "Yo, chill the fuck out."
Right.
Like
I'm
you need
like, what?
somebody that's like, "Yo, who the fuck you talking to?" Like
Yeah.
instead of being like, "Oh, my bad," like yeah, no, like you can't be at some point. I'm not saying be Bill Parcells
Right.
or Bill Belichick, but you got to at least stand up for yourself and be like, "Yeah, no, this is not
Facts.
how we run this stuff."
Hmm.
And so I think I think for the sake of talent,
Okay.
you go with the Broncos
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
have a Jared
Quarterback.
Judy, you have a Cortland Sutton, you have
Mhm.
I think he ended up getting injured, but you have I think it's Devontae Williams.
The running back.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, he's
like
nice. He's nice.
and then you have Russ. Now it's
Mm.
they didn't already gave all this money to Russ, so now it's one of those things where you kind of gotta you gotta give him one more season to see what you got. So I think
Right.
for the
Right.
sake of a team, you would go with someone like that. Where with Arizona,
Hmm.
you got an aging AJ Green.
That's true.
You don't really know what you're getting with a DeAndre Hopkins. You would assume that he would come back if Sean Payton is there, but then you don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
So
He
then
might be a
it's
trade piece for him. Right.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where I think the talent on the team as is,
Okay.
I would just and plus that defense played very well. And
That's
so
true.
I think that alone would for me would be the best fit is the Broncos. But I can see why someone would say Arizona. I think that the other teams are all rebuild projects
Hmm.
unless Staley is no is not kept as a head coach.
They
I
fired the
think
OC over
I
there.
did
I
see the
know that,
OC, so I doubt that
but
they let go of the head coach.
the head coach, yeah, I'm like, yeah. But one thing about your Russell Wilson point before we move on is also that kind of adds to your point, your perspective is Russell Wilson himself is a shorter quarterback,
Right.
so it might come down to those two teams. You know what I'm saying? So
And so
yeah,
with the last time we got a lot of time left.
yeah.
NBA power rankings.
Oh, we're gonna do the MVP as well.
That I don't know if we'll have enough time for that. Like
Okay,
I
let's
said,
power rankings
we'll
first.
talk
Okay,
about that at the end. Power rankings first. At the
all
end
right,
at the end, we'll see how much time we got. But we
no
got the NBA power rankings. You know how we like to get how I get down. We got 10 all the way up. Start from
to
the
one.
bottom to the top. You go first. Go crazy.
Oh, he put me on the spot, man. Let me pull mine. Oh, you know what? I know who mine was at 10. I have the heat culture, heat culture. People always text me about some heat culture. I'm like, man, all right, y'all haven't won anything since Bron. Okay.
Right.
I gotta go with Miami Heat. First off, shout out to Oladipo. Oladipo been playing well. The Miami Heat are 24 and 21. I like their where they've stepped up as of late. I got the Miami Heat. I know they did beat the Bucks when I think Giannis wasn't playing in that game. But hey, a win is a win. You're beating teams you're supposed to beat. So
A
I
win
gotta
is a
get
win.
Miami Heat. They slid into number 10 because I like them more than some teams like the Knicks and stuff like that. And then number 9, I'm gonna hit you with the team that I had in the play-in, but they're exceeding expectations. The 24 and 18 Sacramento Kings beating up on these teams by like 20, 25 points, man. Like the Sacramento Kings, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they are number 1 in scoring and points per game, Ralph. Oh, man. De'Aaron Fox balling out, after all the I want to be traded from his father and stuff like that. So I got the Miami Heat at 10 and I got the Sacramento Kings at 9. All right, go ahead.
All right. And then for me, I got at 10. I agree with you as
The
far as
Miami Heat.
the
Woo.
Miami Heat.
All right.
Um, the one thing about them is numbers don't necessarily show. It's like you got to watch them
Correct.
play games
You
because
have
if you look at their numbers, the offensive the offensive rating is like not it's very subpar. But
yeah.
also at the same time, like their net rating is is really in the defensive rating is where they kind of show how good of a team they are because they're slow in pace.
hmm
They don't put up as many points as
Right.
some of the top tier teams. So to put them in there, but when you look at a team or how well they play against these teams,
hmm
they're always in the ball game.
Okay.
And so at 10, I got the Heat, and at 9, I got the Milwaukee Bucks. For the only reason they're this low is because they currently don't have Giannis.
hmm
So it's one of those things where you put them based on where they are currently
Okay.
rather than going and
Where they
putting
will be.
them where they will be.
Yeah. Or
And
projecting there will be.
you
Yeah.
know what? I think I messed up. I think I messed up somewhere.
So you had the Heat at 10, right?
Actually, I don't have the Heat at 10. I
Okay.
apologize, y'all.
Okay.
I have
Bucks at 10.
the Bucks at 10, and the
Woo!
Knicks,
Hot
and
take
the
here.
Knicks, and then I have the Knicks at 9
Okay. The city of Milwaukee
for.
wants to explain the Pfizer Forum fans.
But then, like I said, a
Nah,
lot
it's
of it
cool.
has to do with where they are currently.
Right.
Like the Knicks themselves, the
They've
Knicks
been hooping.
have
They've been hooping.
they're playing very well, but
Yeah.
also they have a 9. They're top 10 offensive rating. They're top 10 in defensive rating. They're eighth in net rating,
Mm.
and they play at a slow pace. So they're always going to
Mm.
be in games. They play really well. They destroy teams that they should.
Mm.
It's just whether or not can they get over the hump against those top 10 teams. So for me, I apologize, y'all. I got the
Yeah.
Bucks at 10. I got the Knicks at 9.
Okay. And at number 8, lucky number 8, this is going to be my lottery ticket to the NBA Finals. This is the team I project is going to go face the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA Finals, barring health. Is the New Orleans Pelicans. That's how I say it. I always say the Pelicans. So shout out to the city of NOLA, man. Serve me I've been eating some jambalaya as of recently. So shout out to the city of NOLA for that. But yeah. So I got them. My only thing is Ralph is I would like to see Brandon Ingram eventually get in the court, by like All-Star break. That would be nice, man. Ingram,
Right.
you like to see it now. And Herb Jones being out, but with Herb Jones out, with Zion Williamson out, with Brandon Ingram still out, waiting for him emerges. CJ McCollum and the rest of the crew, Jonas Valanciunas and Jose Alvarado, have been holding it down. I don't have them. They're still one of the elite teams in the West for me, but I just need them to become whole. And then at number 7, I have the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid and James Harden. They actually beat the Kings. Not excuse me, they didn't beat the Kings. My bad. What team did I say they beat? Um, they beat who did they beat? I had it on my other notes here. Let me see. Oh, they it was the Jazz and the Lakers. I don't know how much credence we want to give them that, but I do believe that they're probably right now they've been playing like a top three team in the East, only because when I look at the Bucks, I look at some of the games that they had lost, and I also look at the fact that Giannis, to your point, Giannis actually some of the games he's been playing, when I'm seeing games like 9-point games or like what's going on, they say a win is a win, but I feel like that team is very Giannis centric, and that really bothers me.
Yeah,
And people,
very
and I
much
feel like
so.
people, right, and I feel like people just are kind of they have the blindfold on. They're like, oh, the playoffs gonna happen, everything's gonna be all cool. Like, yeah, you got one chip, that don't mean you don't get another one. So
Right,
anyway,
right, right.
that's how I'm gonna swing it back to you. I think I said Pelicans at 8, and I got 76ers at 7. All right.
And then so for me, I got because of the KD injury, it's just regardless of how well they've been playing and how well they
That
were playing,
Brooklyn
I
net.
got the Nets. I got the Brooklyn Nets at 8.
Okay. Good for
Offensive
you.
rating is crazy, but like I said,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
no KD. They picked
yeah.
it up. Jacques Vaughn doing a heck of a job. Got the defensive rating all the way up to 9.
Whew.
Net rating at 7. So I
Mm,
think that, and surprisingly, they don't play at a top tier pace like you would think
yeah.
that they would. And so I think that they've been doing a heck of a job. They've been holding it down, given the injuries and not slipping. They're still 12 games above 500.
Hmm.
Um, NBA has them at 4, but I just disagree given where
Okay.
they are currently
Okay.
in these standings. And like you said, at 7, I definitely agree with you with the
Mhm.
76ers. I think that the they've been holding afloat, and they probably will be a little higher if everybody stayed healthy. But Joel Embiid coming back from a foot injury, although he's balled out in the last 3-4
Oh,
games, coming back from his foot injury, James Harden looking closer to the James Harden that when the Nets got him. They're number 4 in defensive rating.
hmm,
Surprisingly, they're just scraping the top 10 in offensive rating. But at
yeah.
the same time, net rating at 6. They're playing at a slower pace, so that means they're getting the rock to Joel, which I think is where a lot of teams, even I think even in a matchup with Denver, that's the best way to try to get them because Jokic can't be had on defense.
Thank you. I always say that, man. Like, no disrespect to Jokic. Jokic is amazing, but we're
Right.
just saying, you got to make
It's
him defend.
exactly. And so next up, I'm gonna go next because I got the Cavs at
Okay.
6. Defense, they playing defense like crazy. You got a few closers when it gets
Mm,
down to a crunch time. You got a Karis LeVert, you got a Donovan Mitchell, you got a Darius Garland. I think that when you start to put them up against some of the better teams, you have an an Allen who can go with no type of shading, no type of backup. You can just put him out there on an island versus a Joel Embiid, a Jokic, or Anthony Davis, and then let him hold his own to a certain degree. But also, he's going to run the floor and make it hard for the other team's big. So he's always going to be that effort guy. But then also, you got shooters all over the court. You got
mhm.
just legit bucket getters, and they're playing really good team defense. So I got them at 6, and I got you mentioned them before, but I got the Kings at 5.
Ooh.
And I think that what
Okay.
they've been able to
Okay.
do, they're 4th in the West
Yes. Yes.
currently, as we speak. And so I think that that
Mhm.
job that Milk Dud Head has been doing over there,
Mike
although
Brown
he's a
did.
defensive guy, he's only got them at 24 in defensive rating, but
Yeah, which
his
is
net
crazy,
rating
man.
is at 9, the pace is at 5,
Mm,
and the
mm,
offensive rating is at 3. And then when you go deeper
mhm,
into it, they actually lead the league in net rating when it comes to this just anybody putting their starting 5 up against anybody else's. And I think that having shooters all over the floor, you have a
mhm,
Jokic like offense where Sabonis
mhm.
averaging 7 assists a game almost this season. You got De'Aaron Fox is having his most efficient season, period. Uh Herder coming over from Atlanta. They just gave him away for a pack of Skittles
It's crazy.
and some zebra gum.
Hmm.
And he's got them playing at a high level. So I got the Cavs at 6,
Okay.
and I got the Beam team. Sacramento Kings.
Okay. So I got the 6. I got the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not going to dive into that too much. But I think they're asking a lot of Giannis. And then at number 5, I actually have the Cavs. I mean, also we talked about Donovan Mitchell's last time we talked, which was about 2 weeks ago. We talked about Donovan Mitchell and his 71-point outburst and multiple closers. Him being able to close the game. You have a guy like Darius Garland. You used to have Levert. And so I actually have the Cavs at number 5. They're 28-17 right now. I believe that they're also one of those teams that are going to be contenders out once we get to the Eastern Conference. So once the trade deadline comes, some things are going to shake up. But I got the Cavs. I believe that they're actually playing better basketball in the Eastern Conference. Excuse me. I believe they're playing better basketball in the Eastern Conference over a team like the Bucks and the 76ers right now. So that's why I had the Cleveland Cavaliers at number 5. Okay.
All
Then you
right,
got
and then
4.
go off with 4 and 3.
All right. So 4 and 3, I have to actually agree with the NBA. I think you said the NBA has them at 4, so I actually agree with the Brooklyn Nets. I know that they did lose 2 games. I actually think that the Ben Simmons thing is now a cause for concern. However, T.J. Warren had 20 points against, I think, the Boston Celtics. The biggest issue is for me is the fact that, hey, defensive rebounding, I think rate was low, but everything else is good. You don't go like on an 18 out of 20 game stretch, 18 wins, right, and not be there. So I got the Brooklyn Nets at number 4. I'm not going to go too far into them. We've talked about that in the past. Memphis Grizzlies at 3, Denver Nuggets at 2, and then I got the Boston Celtics, Ralph, at number 1.
And so I got the Pelicans at 4. I think that what they've been able to do
Okay.
is everything you mentioned before with CJ. You got
Okay.
CJ who he's having a down season, but he's still playing well when it's needed. Jose Alvarado being able to come off that bench and be a light skinned Pat Bev and giving them some heart, some energy while they don't have 2 of their big 3, I guess you can call it. And so I think that what the job that Willie Green has been able to get over there, he got an old man name, but I think that the job that he's been able to do, number 6 in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating, and he's got them 5th in net rating. I think he's doing a phenomenal job over there, and we expected it. It's just, can they stay healthy so they can make that stretch run that me and you believe they can? Next up, I got the
Exactly.
Denver at 3.
Okay.
I got Denver at 3. First in offensive rating. It's the defense that's where I'm gonna put. I couldn't just put them over the people that they are under. On the
Right.
next up, sheesh, children.
Almost there.
But
Final stretch.
next, but
Yeah.
then you got Denver with the number 1 offensive rating, but it's the defense that really has me to kind of puts me on pause, because I
Yeah.
think that when you play a team 7 times potentially in a best out of 4, it's only so much Jokic. Can Jokic dominate to the point where it doesn't matter what you got, he's going to be able to lead you to a 7-game series. And I think that if you're not able to get stops at a high level, with your defensive rating being at 18, where the next team up they got their number 1 in defensive rating, and the next team after that is 7 in defensive rating. So I got
Right.
Grizzlies at 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I was about to put them at 1, but then I just was like, yeah, I think that in a series, which is ultimately what we start comparing them to, is we start talking about go downstairs now. Go downstairs.
Kids these
Children,
days. Yeah.
children. But we're almost done. We're almost out of here. But we got the Grizzlies with the number 1 defensive rating. They're number 11 in offensive rating, but they're number 2 in net rating. And I
Yeah.
think I started to compare the Nets and not the Nets, the Grizzlies and the Celtics, which is the Celtics are my number 1 team, but to stay focused on the Grizzlies, one of the reasons why I wasn't able to really put them over is I think that the teams are even. They play really good team ball. They
Mm-hmm.
play really good defensively, but I just believe in Tatum more than I believe in Ja, and that's one of those things where I think that when you have a two-headed monster,
Mm-hmm.
where Jalen can go off for 40 and Jason can go off for 50,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that it's one of those things where that's where I'm gonna end up putting the Celtics. I just
Okay.
wanted to hug you. I love
No, I definitely feel you. I feel you on that. I think they're supporting pieces. I like their supporting pieces to kind of to feed off what you're saying. I like their supporting pieces a little bit more in terms of just hey defensively and how they can hanker down defensively. I think that that can scare teams more or intimidate teams more, and the fact that they have the championship experience. Right, they didn't win it, but they have the experience. So I definitely agree with you on that. And I think with your Denver Nuggets point, I was going to say it's actually surprising that the Denver Nuggets aren't even a top 10 defensive team, let alone top 15 defensive team, considering that they made the trade for Bruce Brown. You make a trade for KCP. You have Aaron Gordon, who's been playing good defense, but it's like okay, you try to help some of your point of attack defense, and then you have that back end, and you're still not really the defensive team that we want you to be. But so far in the regular season, you're winning the regular season. But once you get to the playoffs, you need to hanker down on defense. And so I think that they have the ability. Come the trade deadline, they're one of the teams, Ralph, and we'll get to this on another show where I believe the Denver Nuggets will ultimately make a trade to kind of shore up that defense. So I think that obviously these are our power rankings now, but once we get trade pieces flowing and moving to different teams, I'm really curious to see will Denver make that leap because in terms of just a roster, they have a beautiful roster right now. So, but they need to get that defense, like you said, for some of those other teams. Yeah.
I definitely agree, man. I think it's one of those things where it can go either way because I think that offensively, like
Oh,
it
they're
shows that they have the
amazing.
number. They're it,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things. Are you gonna trade twos,
Hmm.
threes for twos, or are you what is it? What is your plan of attack here? And so I
Yeah.
think that it's one of those things where are you gonna go with a talented defensive team and try to go to where you can get you pretty much you hit threes and you make them shoot twos.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's one of those things where they give me pause, but I do see, and I'm not because everybody knows how much
Yeah.
that I go based off of Jokic versus Joel Embiid, and I
Hmm.
think that is one of those things that it could come off as a certain way, but just logically and thinking about
Logically,
playoff
yeah.
basketball,
Yeah.
I think that it's I'm definitely going to put the Grizzlies and the Celtics over them.
Okay. And
And
their
I think
offense
that
can
once
be
it
there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and I think that is one of those things where when you have a Jamal Murray, when you have a
Mm,
Jokic, and you have an Aaron Gordon, you have
mm,
three people that can go out and get you some buckets when they really need it when things break
yeah.
down. And so I think that it's one of those things where they can make a real playoff push, but it's something about I don't know, it's something about those teams that like they just get pushed a little bit too hard to the
Hmm.
forefront that make me nervous when it comes down when it's said and done.
Yeah, I think there's a mind. I'm not saying I'm not going to say there's a consensus yet. There's some people who believe the Denver Nuggets are nothing more than a regular season team, and I think that they forget that in the bubble they made the Western Conference Finals. And I understand that was the bubble, but they had two pieces. I know you didn't mention him. I think you meant to mention him. Michael Porter Jr., a guy that you paid what how much $1 million you gave him the big contract to be healthy, and then the moment you give him the contract, he only plays 9 games. So if you get that 20 points from Michael Porter Jr., who's an elite 3-point shooter and can create his own shot, right? Now you have Jamal Murray, like we talked about months ago. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., uh, Jokic, you can run that high pick and roll to death. Then if if you don't run high pick and roll, Jokic can step out and hit the three, and your bigs crazy. You can't double him because if you double him, then he's distributing the ball. And so, like, I see all these breakdowns and Venn diagrams and videos. Like, their offense is a well-oiled machine. And to your point, I think what you're trying to say is their offense can be their defense. And I actually do believe their offense can be their defense, even in the playoffs, unless Michael Porter or Jamal Murray gets hurt. And I'm not trying to say that's going to happen, but if they get hurt, I think that's when we're like, okay, well, you need some defense to stop something. You know what I'm saying? So, but if they're both healthy, I believe that they can make the conference finals. They're not a one and done team. So yeah, they're a good team. So all right.
And let us know what you think, man. We got to get up out of here. Children be children and children and Love my daughter to death. Make
Show
sure
us
you go
another
and follow
picture.
all our socials. Let us know what you think. And thank you all for watching. We're out of here.
Peace.
Peace.